And what is usually the size of the boat?
Yeah.
And the length of the vacation of the rental?
That's a good question. I would say the majority of boats, or let's say the typical boat, is a sailboat or a catamaran around 40 foot. That is something like 13, 14 meters. Most rentals are bareboat, so that means they're rented by somebody who owns or who has a boating license. For example, the most common one in the UK, just as an example, is an RIA powerboat license or an RIA sailing boat license. And the typical length is a week. So the most typical charter would be 40-foot sailboat, 1 week, Saturday to Saturday in Croatia, let's say. You take the boat in the evening of a Saturday, you spend the week on the way, and then return it the next Friday, check out Saturday in the morning.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Reframe First. I'm Alexei, the host of the podcast. Let me welcome our today's guest, Frederik, Head of Product and Growth at Borrowboat. Hi Frederik, it's great having you here.
Hi Alexei, thank you for inviting me.
So from what I learned, Borrowboat is basically a web marketplace for boats and yacht rentals. So you position yourself as kind of Airbnb of boats. So that's all I learned. Like, that's a marketplace. I know something about marketplace. That's travel. I know a bit about that. But still, like, could you tell us more about Borrowboat, what the mission of the product is, and what's the whole story?
Absolutely, yes. So Borrowboat is what I would say is a hybrid marketplace. We are a marketplace and an online brokerage. So as you said, the comparison with Airbnb, it happens a lot, but we would rather compare ourselves to Booking.com in terms of the business model, because our focus is not on peer-to-peer rentals. It's rather on us being the middleman between professional companies and the traveler. Borrowboat was founded a couple of years ago in the UK. We are operating all over the world as we are a brokerage. We don't own any boats, so we just sit in the middle between the owner and the traveler, as I mentioned. And this lets us easily offer boats anywhere in the world, even on demand. A lot in this industry is done on a handshake basis. So even if there is a request that we cannot immediately serve because we don't have the inventory, we can just do our own research, find it, and make it still happen. Today, we are offering around 21,000 boats. The majority is in Europe, as Europe has the strongest charter industry in the world, followed by the Caribbean. And then we have a few more exotic locations as well. We offer boats in Thailand, in Australia, in Brazil, in Mexico, in Cuba. So anywhere where there is a charter industry, we generally can offer boats to our guests. Yeah, the last thing I would just say is we are a full service agency, so we do anything from the first contact with the client to the checkout of the client from the boat. We are right there alongside the client. We are handling all the payments. We are handling all the back and forth between the owner of the boat and the client. And if anything happens, then they can also always rely on us.
And that opens a lot of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine.
Like 21,000 boats, that's a lot. And what is usually the size of the boat?
Yeah.
And the length of the vacation of the rental?
That's a good question. I would say the majority of boats, or let's say the typical boat, is a sailboat or a catamaran around 40 foot. That is something like 13, 14 meters. Most rentals are bareboat, so that means they're rented by somebody who owns or who has a boating license. For example, the most common one in the UK, just as an example, is an RIA powerboat license or an RIA sailing boat license. And the typical length is a week. So the most typical charter would be 40-foot sailboat, 1 week, Saturday to Saturday in Croatia, let's say. You take the boat in the evening of a Saturday, you spend the week on the way, and then return it the next Friday, check out Saturday in the morning.
So I need to have the license to be able to rent a boat.
If you want to rent a bareboat, exactly. We call it, well, in the industry calls it bareboat. That means there is no professional skipper on board. But if you book with us, you can always hire a professional skipper, and then they would captain the boat for you. And In this case, you wouldn't need any experience at all. So we have a product for both first-time sailors and then, of course, regular sailors as well.
I see. I see. Like you mentioned, like you provide the full service from rental, like from the moment people rent the boat until like they leave the boat.
Mhm.
What is packaged in there? Is it only boat and like some insurance, or is it some itineraries? I
Yeah.
don't know.
So coming from the typical type of boat, let's go to the typical booking funnel. You as the user or the client, you go onto the website, you type in the location of where you would want to rent a boat. We give you all the options that are available. It can be, as mentioned, a weekly charter, or maybe you just want to rent for a single day or just for a couple of hours, maybe for an event, maybe for your partner. There's absolutely anything that can be done on a boat. We tend to be able to offer it. Once you found your boat, you can get in contact with us because often there are more questions than what is immediately available online. I have to admit, it is not the easiest product, a boat rental, especially if you do it for the first time. So we generally always try to get in contact with you to answer all your questions, and then also send you an offer or a quote, which you can then book or share with your friends. And when you're ready to book, you just go through the checkout, just like booking your hotel on booking.com or your apartment on Airbnb. Once
Oh,
it's
it's kind.
booked, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I'm not used to it. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's totally fine. Many people are not used to it. Just some background information. We have a 50-50 split. 50% first-time sailors have never been on a boat before, have never booked a boat online, or entirely new experience to them. And the other 50% are people that either own their own sailboat somewhere and they just need a boat somewhere else for a week, or they tend to go every year because it's simply their type of holiday. Just like one person might spend their annual holiday in a hotel resort at the coast, others spend it on a boat and do this every single year. Let's assume that you booked your boat and you want to bareboat charter. That means you have your license. You would have to send us the license. We forward it to the boat owner just to get the final confirmation. You asked to fill out a crew list, which is very important. It just tells the owner and the authorities whoever's going to be on board for the week or for the day. And then when it's time for the check-in, you go to the marina, you sign a couple of documents. You can do your own grocery shopping for the week, or you can use services that do it for you. You get a full introduction to the boat, a proper handover, and then the boat is yours for the day or for the week. And then it's totally up to you where you're going to go, what you're going to do, where you're going to spend the night. You know, if you're going to spend the night moored in the marina, or if you rather anchor in the bay. There are almost no limits to what is possible, and everybody has their own preference of what they do. Some people enjoy marinas because it comes with the infrastructure. There's showers, there's toilets, obviously, restaurant, nightlife, and others say, I rather spend it at anchor in a bay because I'm there by myself. At maximum, I have a couple of neighbors in other boats.
So basically, like, yeah, when you mentioned that you are kind of booking.com, you compare yourself, it's like you provide accommodation, but on the boat. So they give users the boat and they do whatever they want.
Correct.
And do users often come to you with like, and where can we go? Like, what should we do? Are there some?
They do, especially first-time sailors that don't really have an idea of, or they can't really picture it yet, of how a week can be spent on water, on a boat. They have a lot of questions, especially, what do we do during the day? Where should we go? Most trips, especially when talking about a weekly rental, they are a round trip, starting in the same marina and ending in the same marina. So they would want to get an itinerary that clearly tells them, like, okay, if you start in Split on Saturday evening, maybe you spend the night still in the marina to get settled. And then Sunday morning, you leave the marina, you start sailing north or south towards the Dubrovnik. Then you should, for example, make a distance or cover a distance of 10 nautical miles, and then make sure you find your spot for the night. It can be in XYZ. If you need a place to have dinner, then this is where you could go. So they get fairly detailed itineraries for each day. And one thing that is important in these itineraries is always you have to anchor somewhere, or you have to moor somewhere at night, right? You cannot just continue sailing over the night. So you have to put the boat somewhere. a non-sailing person would say, I need to park somewhere. And you should always keep this in mind because distances on the sea, they take longer to cover unless you're, of course, on a powerboat, but most people are sailing, so it takes time. There's always the weather is a factor you can't control, obviously. Having a good plan of where you want to be by the end of each day is a very good starting point. And then, of course, where you want to be the next day, the day after, until you're finally back with a full circle to where you came from.
I see. And with regards, like, since you have 21,000 boats, it's probably quite a lot of rentals. And how do you handle all of that operationally? Because from what you mentioned, like rental, making sure the person gets on board, providing itineraries, whatever, it's quite a lot of operational work.
Absolutely. So our industry is very seasonal. We have a high season and a low season, not just when it comes to when people are sailing, but also when people book. And what we see often is just after summer, when everybody returns from their trip, nobody's going to immediately book the next trip. So this is then our low season when it comes to bookings. And then towards the end of the year, December, January is when it really picks up again, because then people start planning the next holidays. They put in the holidays at work. And this is when most bookings are happening until the very high season. The switch is that from January towards the high season in, let's say, June, July, the type of bookings, they change a little bit. So rather than booking the weekly rentals, people tend to book more day rentals the closer we get to high season, because then people book more spontaneously. They know they will be in Athens for one day or in Santorini for one day, and they just want to spend a single day at sea. And these things are booked very last minute, sometimes a day before, sometimes even on the same day. And so this is a general change in behavior. But in general, this also splits, or it evens out the volume throughout the year. And we get to enjoy a little bit of downtime towards the end of high season, where we then focus more on product development, tech maintenance and stuff like this. Our teams can focus on other things because there's less check-ins to take care of. In general, we have a sales team, we have a after-sales team, we have an account management team. Everybody's working together to make sure that everything between client and boat operator is fully covered. It is labor intensive. Labor is our biggest cost. It's very difficult to fully automate this process, especially when you have a product that is something unknown to most people or to many people, right? That needs a lot of explanation, a lot of Q&A. And of course, it's the high ticket for our products, the high basket sizes. Even if everything was fully automated, if you spend 5,000 euros for a weekly rental, probably you want to speak to a person instead of just doing everything online on a I trust you basis. It also happens, but most people prefer to have a proper human they can talk to. They can email back and forth. They can contact via WhatsApp or talk on the phone. And this is why our industry is very labor intensive and is very difficult to automate.
And what is the most labor intensive? Which part of the process? Is it like the booking process? Is it like the onboarding process? Or is it the process
I would definitely say it's the booking process. For various factors. First factor is it's more a thing about our industry specifically that I haven't seen too much in other mature industries like the hotel booking platforms. And that is that pricing is very flexible in our industry. That means if you see a price online, you might see the same price on our competitor's website. You might see it with a couple percent difference, but people tend to know that price is up to negotiation. So this is one of the labor intensive aspects of our industry is the price negotiations with clients.
Okay.
There's real haggling going on. There is comparing multiple quotes from different competitors and trying to get the best deal, trying to have one outbid the other. And we see this a lot. And so from request to booking, there is a window. And in this window, let's say it's 14 days, there is just lots and back and forth, lots of questions. That is because a boat is a complex, it's like a car, right? If you buy a car, imagine or if you rent a car, actually, you're not going to buy the boat, obviously. If you rent a car and you're going to spend a week with a car, whether it's for a road trip or whether it's to sleep in the car, a boat is that times 10. You need to know how big the fridge is. How many things can I put in the fridge? Is there a freezer? How big is the freezer? It's all these types of questions. How tall are the cabins? Can I stand upright because I'm a tall person? It's all of these things that you think, okay, if I answer it once, I can put it somewhere on the website for a user to find. But if you put everything online, then you end up writing an encyclopedia of every single boat, right? And every boat is different. Even though the models might be the same, you might have one and the same model, two different charters, but they have completely different specs on the inside. So data standardization, big topic, big challenge. I've been biting my nails for this for the past couple of years. It's very difficult to be so open about information with the aim or with the goal to have everything available for the user at once. There's always something that you forgot. There's always another question that you didn't think of that a client might have, even if it's so far-fetched. And coming back to the labor intensity, if you ask me, let's say I'm the sales agent, I'm offering you a couple of boats and you have a question for a specific boat. Like, let's say, what's the specific type of chart plotter that is? Is it a Garmin chart plotter? Is it a, whatever chart plotter? I don't have the answer. I need to contact the boat owner. The boat owner might not have the answer. They might need to contact the personnel at the marina who is maintaining the boat, and then they need to wait for the answer. I need to wait for the answer. You as the client, you need to wait for the answer. But if it's important for you and you need to have this information in order to book, then what can we do? We have to ask, right? And we have to wait and we have to get this information. And if we answer the first question, we tell you, hey, it's the Garmin XYZ chart plotter. Maybe then you come back, okay, and what about the depth meter? What kind of model is that? And the whole process starts again. And it's a daily occurrence.
Do you see any way to standardize? Because like 21,000, that's a lot. And since you mentioned like each of them is different. So
each of them is different. And you can manage to standardize it to an extent. Like we can tell you, of course, the equipment that's on the boat. And we can tell you what type of sail is on the boat, how deep, what the depth of the boat is, what's the width or the beam of the boat, all of these things. But again, the human mind they will always come up with more questions that they're interested in knowing or they want to know before they book. And there's a ceiling to how much data you can and want to collect. Because at some point you go from a high level, let's say an outboard engine that you might need, for the little tender that you have on the boat. Is it enough to say there is an outboard engine? For some, it might be enough. For others, they want to know the horsepower of the outboard engine. Okay, for some, it's enough knowing the horsepower of the engine. Let's say it's 3 horsepower. The next person wants to know the brand of the outboard engine. Okay, then you go that. The next one, it goes on and it goes on. You can, at some point, you start collecting the weight of an item, and when is enough, basically. To some, they need to know everything. Germans. I'm German myself. Germans, when they go on a charter holiday, they want to know everything. No question can be left unanswered. Once you do answer all the questions, they tend to book. If you miss a question, they will tell you, like, look, it's all fine and good, but I still need this information. Others, they are quite easy. They say, oh, okay, it's a sailboat. I can work with that. I'm going to book. It's people are different. We kind of opted for of course, a bit more than minimum in terms of information, which might satisfy 75% of users. But to get to the next level, let's say to get to 85% of users, your work suddenly increases tenfold because there's so much more information you need to collect.
So where is the limit?
Where's the limit? Our limit is where we think, okay, we cover most of it. There's always more we can do. AI, definitely. I'm sure we're going to come to the topic of AI in a bit. AI has been helping us a lot in standardizing and just streamlining data entry and in figuring out what users are interested in based on all the questions we get, based on we have so much data, so few people that can analyze it. And AI has been a big help. And I'm sure there's going to be a whole topic around this stuff.
Yeah, let's jump to the topic. First of all, 21,000 bots. How do you book them? Are there like major providers that you integrate with? And
there are.
Then where is AI that comes into play? How to standardize it and streamline it?
So maybe talking a bit about who actually owns the boat. As I said in the beginning, We generally don't compare ourselves so much to Airbnb because we don't offer peer-to-peer. Sharing your boat is restricted in many countries due to insurance, the topic of insurances. This is why our platform, Borrow a Boat, focuses more on professional charter companies. A boat being professionally owned by a company means it's guaranteed to be fully insured. Nothing can happen if you damage the boat. Okay, you might lose your security deposit, but nobody can ever force you to pay for the boat. Even in case of accidents, there's insurance and all of this. And these owners, they can own a single boat, or they can own 1,000 boats. There are very big players on the market that have been on in the industry for multiple decades. They are, of course, not many. There is, not sure if you have ever heard of any of the names. Movings and Sunsail, they have been one of the first major charter companies starting in the US, as far as I know. They became so big that they had so much purchase power for boats that they managed to get their own models developed specifically for charter, as a charter boat has different criteria or requirements than your own private boat. There's Dream Yacht Charter, a major company, Navigare Yachting, many big players. The majority, I would say, have less than 25 boats, the majority of our partners. So they could be family businesses. They started with one boat, they bought another one the next season, or they maybe have 10 boats. They maintain them themselves. They have a manager at the base that takes care of the boats, and there is no big company behind them. They can also, which in this case, it means they can't spend too much on marketing and not so much on customer acquisition. And then this is, of course, where companies like ours come into play, as we do the marketing, we pay for the customer acquisition, and there's very little our partners have to do besides making sure we have updated pricing, availability, and high quality photos of the boats.
That's also a lot of work.
It's
If
also,
I can
of course, absolutely. I'm not downplaying the amount of work it is
dividing
to
numbers to 21,000 by like less than 25 boats, it's like 1,000 partners.
Oh yeah, we have 4,000 partners.
Okay.
Of course, you get new partners almost every week. You lose partners that change businesses is always we have a steady growth. I think in total we have 6,000 partner accounts, and 4,000 of them are active. We offer our own booking management tool for them. It's a free SaaS that they can use to manage their fleet. And what we get in return is, of course, first-hand data directly from them, added from them into our database. It cannot be more accurate than it is when the owner adds it directly. We don't have to go through external companies that aggregate data. We know the boat's available when it's available. We know the price, and gives us a bit of
So you got your own like fleet management system, like
exactly.
like in real estate there are property management systems, so you built your own
Exactly.
for the
And we built the same just for boats. It allows you to manage your inventory on our website, on borrowaboat.com. It allows you, just like, as you said, a real estate management system where you manage your properties or listings. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a really big product that you run. With regards to like AI that we mentioned, like
Mhm.
where does it come to play? Which kind of processes did it help you to like
Yeah.
streamline?
So initially, and I guess this is everybody's first step of using AI, was simply to use AI, to improve emails.
Chatbots or whatever.
To get data. Use AI as a better Google, basically. And this is also what we started. I think it must have been now 3 or 4 years ago. Luckily, we have a few people in our company that really drive the use of AI forward. As I've also seen other companies where if there's not a single person really pushing it forward, then you get stuck using it just as Google or to write your emails, and that's it. And so you only tap into maybe less than 1% of AI's capabilities. What we have done is out of necessity, we use it a lot for content writing because we have thousands and thousands of landing pages, for every location, for every boat type, for every combination of location and boat type. And we need content. And back then, our content was written by humans. Obviously, probably for most companies, it was written by humans, which is a good thing. But since what you said, at some point, Google changed the algorithm a little bit and tweaked its content algorithm specifically. And suddenly, all the content we had, it was just no longer performing for SEO. It was just the wrong type of content. It was too long paragraphs. It was the wrong questions. It was the wrong keywords suddenly. because people's search behavior changed, right? From just keyword search, they now ask full questions and then they hope to get the answer. And we just didn't have the personnel, the people anymore that could update content, let's say for 10,000 landing pages in bulk in a feasible amount of time. So what we did instead is we built a content pipeline together with Claude or through Claude, and it helped us first to, I think, 50 or 60 different iterations until we got the prompt right and building in all the fail safes, because obviously no AI is perfect, especially when it comes to content generation, I think, but also many other aspects. We built this whole system that allows us to generate content. And this is not just a single paragraph or not just an SEO wall of text. We can fill an entire page with very specific destination content that is highly optimized for yacht charters, highly optimized for search engines and other AI tools. And we can do this on demand. Whenever we click and we want to upgrade a page, it does it. And the only thing we have to do is review it. We've gone now through a couple of more iterations because I guess every single month SEO changes a little bit and moves forward and has slightly adjusted requirements, right? And unless you keep up with it, at some point you will again have outdated content, which is an absolute killer for SEO. And since you said at the beginning, your experience with the drop in traffic, well, we experienced the same from one day to another. Our content just wasn't relevant anymore, and Google just didn't like us anymore. And we had to reinvent our whole content strategy. And we couldn't have done it without creating this in bulk for hundreds and later thousands of pages. Still needs to be reviewed. I think there is never 100% trust in the content that's generated. It gets very close to being perfect, but it will never be perfect. And we've had our fair share of learnings that too much trust is in the end hurting us. And so we implemented a strict review process, but it worked. We managed to update. We are still every day updating a couple of pages. And let's not forget, we are not just talking strictly about English content. We are talking about, Polish. We are talking about French, Italian, Dutch. And in the past, we needed to hire a Dutch native speaker, a Polish native speaker, or of course outsource it to an agency that does it for us. But even that at times wasn't successful because you need somebody who knows the industry. If you don't know the industry and the industry jargon, then the content you create might be accurate grammatically, but it doesn't fit the industry. It doesn't fit the right speak. And now with very little money, we can at least maintain and improve our content. And this has been a game changer for us. And that's just one of the tools. What we're working on right now is, well, we have lots of questions that users asked us over the years. If an agent works on a booking or on a request, on an inquiry, they on average get 5 to 6 questions that they need to answer. Some of these questions have been answered multiple times. There's lots of documentation. There is, hundreds of articles in our help center, probably thousands of articles in Confluence. There's even more around our Google Drive. And with AI, we can now analyze it easily without spending days and weeks on this. And we can easily pinpoint the most frequently asked questions. Use this to feed it back to AI to create the proper FAQs for the right page, to build up our knowledge base and get the user to find the answers themselves rather than having us to do the research for them. And the third project, or the third, not even a project, the third AI topic is coding and infrastructure maintenance. So there's a bit of backstory to our company. We used to be an engineering team of up to 20 people, QA team with an infrastructure team, front-end team, back-end team, multiple product managers. And not because of AI, but we did downscale this team a lot. To now actually just 2 people due to various factors, cost-saving initiatives, people simply leaving and then the role not being filled again. And we came to a point where it was 2 people, my colleague and I. We have to maintain our infrastructure in AWS, which is nothing that we ever set up personally, right? We had a team that did it for us. So it's a dark hole, we always say, for us. And with an MCP and Claude, we can at least ask any questions and It can read at least why something is doing what it does. And we no longer need to be experts in server infrastructure or in AWS in general. We don't need to be experts in every single tool that we use because we got AI now. There's so many MCPs. There's a new MCP coming out, almost every minute that is useful. There are MCPs for Google Analytics, for any tool that we need. There's something that we can use to make our lives a bit easier and allow us to do more in less time.
And how much have you downscaled the team in the end?
Pardon me?
How much have you downscaled the team? By how much?
It's two. It's from a team of 20 engineers. We are two today. And it has its negative sides, obviously. Two people only have so many hours each day. So even with AI, in the end, you still need to write prompts. You still need to do stuff. You still need to, test things. And even your best unit tests, they might miss a thing here or two because it's just as good as the test that you wrote. And it's not easy doing it with two people, considering the massive infrastructure that was built to scale the company times 100 almost. And we have the capacities. But now if something breaks, there's two of us that need to look into it. And we need to look into it as soon as possible. And we need to stop what we are doing, because it affects, it can affect the website, or it can affect our SaaS. It can affect any area of the business. And it's very challenging. But it would be more challenging, or it would be more or less impossible if we didn't have AI at our hands, whether it's, Gemini Pro or Claude in Windsurf or any of the other number of tools. Without it, it's impossible.
Don't you feel it's risky? It's nearing the buzz factor.
Absolutely. It's far from perfect, and we wish we would have more people, but we have to use what we have at hands today. It has its positives just as it has its negatives, and the AI is as good as the prompt you give it, right? That's what I always say. If you write shitty prompts, then you get shitty responses. And I think the only way, or one of the big reasons it works for us, is because the two of us, we probably have something like 15 or 16 years combined in this company. So we have this very big domain knowledge about every process in the company, not just tech processes, but I know exactly how sales works. I know exactly how customer service works because I set up their tools. I know everything about our email setup. I know everything about there's very little I don't know about this company, and the stuff I don't know, I got my colleague. And so I've been writing ticket as a product manager. I've been writing tickets for years. I know what you need to write for an engineer to write good code, right? Because for an engineer, it's similar. They are partly only as good as the description that you give it in terms of what you want them to do, right? If you just tell them, hey, do this, then there are 100 different ways to do it. But it's your job with the engineer, to find the best job. How do you define the best or the best way to do it? How do you define the best way? It's by giving them absolutely every corner case, describe every behavior that could happen or is expected. And it's the same with AI. If you give it enough information, which luckily with enough domain knowledge you can do, then at least you reduce the risk. You can't get rid of the risk of the AI. Doing stupid things happens all the time, and I would never do it if we didn't have end-to-end tests in almost all of our services that at least act as a backup. At least when you do shit and when you trust AI a bit too much, then there are some fail-safes happening or that come into play afterwards, and they can still stop bad code from going to production.
Yeah.
And this is, to me, this is among all the tiny little bit of requirements that need to come together to be so reliant on AI and make it still work. There's domain knowledge, there is unit and end-to-end tests, there's good prompt writing, obviously, and you need to just know the business and the industry in and out. You need to know what to expect, and of course, you need to be not be totally. You need to have idea of code. You need to understand code. You need to know code.
Yeah.
And need to be able to detect when the AI is trying to bullshit you.
For sure. How much do you think AI have saved you? Like you mentioned the content creation and especially multilingual one. And then there is answering all these inquiries from users. It's maybe not so answering the questions from users, but rather utilizing your
Analyzing it at least, I guess.
Internal knowledge base and trying to provide already predictions for the good answers, for the proper answers.
Yeah.
How much do you think AI have saved you there?
I
Because it
think
sounds like
it's difficult to pinpoint an exact number. A couple of proxies that we can use to get to a number, or to at least get an understanding of how big the saving is. So one of them is, of course, how many people do we need to do the same job that we did before AI. I told you the tech team, that's just one example. We had a very big team, but we also had a team for content. We had a team for social media. We had a team, a team here, a team there, many people doing many things. And right now, compared to, let's say, 4 years ago, the team size is maybe 1/3, if not 1/4. So at the height, we were 100 people. I think now doing the same job that we do with 25. So not everything is down to AI. Obviously not. You just get more efficient over time. You improve processes, you automate a bit more. But AI does play a role in the sense that if we didn't have it, we would have to hire somebody for content for sure. At the bare minimum, hire an outside agency to do the content for us, because we might be able to hire one English content writer, but not a Polish one, not a Dutch one. So that's one thing. Another thing is, let's say, coming back to the example of the Q&A, the frequently asked questions from users. If I look at our customer service today, we also used to have probably 10 people just in customer service. And customer service in our business was always mixed in with the after sales service. So it's actually not just customer service replying to emails or complaints, but also organizing the after sales, making sure you have a good check-in at some point. This used to be done by 10 people. Now it's done by 2 people. And that is largely due to us just having a lot better help center that goes into very much detail for absolutely any question you could have. Has a lot to do with the what is it, Fin AI bot from Intercom. So Intercom is our support platform, and we trained this bot based on our website, based on our help center, based on our sailing magazine, based on lots of other content. And this bot today can already cover something like 40 to 50% of questions, which would have otherwise gone to, as a case, to an agent. And due to that, we managed to reduce our response times. Nowadays, if we check the response times during active working hours, it's 10 minutes. So you write an email, 10 minutes later, you get your reply. And this wouldn't be possible if we stay at the same volume of support cases being opened every single day. So yeah, it's a mix there as well. And then we have cost savings on, as I said, we had a very complex or a sophisticated server setup, and it was set up by people that are no longer with us. So lots of knowledge was lost. But with an MCP, we managed to just dive into our cost structures in Amazon and AWS and identify services that were legacy services that should have been turned off long ago, that were no longer being used. Or just a few days ago, I found that we were paying for 2 VPN endpoints that were used back then to log into AWS for specific people outside the office. And each endpoint cost us 10 cents an hour or so in uptime. And I would have never found this, to be honest. Maybe at some point, but AI makes it so easy to, it gives me, even if it does the prompt itself, or if I want to be in full control, I at least get the Cloud Shell prompts. And then, of course, I do lots of copy pasting between the terminal and or Cloud Shell and let's say Claude. And then I still get my answer, and it says, look, 0 hits for the past 90 days on these 2 VPN points. Okay, let's go back last 6 months. Still 0 hits. Are they still being used? Probably not. Let's do an analysis. Let's create backups in case we need to, bring them back, and let's kill them. Yeah. Suddenly you save $200 a month that you quite literally we wasted for I don't know how many months. And it's just one example. So yeah, I sound like an absolute fanboy, but it really has allowed us to do, again, like I said before, a lot more in a lot less time with a lot less expert knowledge in areas that we just...
I'm absolutely on the same page with you, because and you dramatically reduce on the amount of communication between the team members.
Absolutely.
Communication of 100 people and communication of 25 people is way different, especially when most of you are in the same office.
Absolutely. We make decisions faster. You get your answers faster.
And each of you acts as a team, you don't need to handle the in-team communication.
Yeah. absolutely.
Awesome. And what was the reason of reduction from 100 people to 25 people? Is it only becoming efficient, or was there some market pressure? Because it
There
looks
was
like
definitely market pressure. The 100 was just before COVID.
before
And
COVID, I
then
see.
during COVID, of course, everybody went into home office. Although at this point, still most people came back, and we had an awesome, successful recovery after COVID, which, in the online, it was called the revenge travel. So everybody who couldn't travel for the years of COVID, now suddenly they just want to get out. And we had lots of first time sailors, because if you sit at home all day long and you scroll through Instagram, and you see the few people that still get to enjoy travel for various reasons, and you can see how empty beaches are, how empty city centers are. Suddenly people really, they don't get jealous, but they get nostalgic almost. They want to get this back, and they're willing to spend even more to get the same feeling that they know from the past. And this was a very successful time for us, where ticket size, it increased. We had the most bookings ever, because it was really it was a rush, almost a rush on vacations. And of course, I was just being a niche of the whole travel industry. We got some of that rush, and it worked out well for us. But as all good things, also that came to an end, and it flattened. And then we realized that we just built a bit too much. We hired a few too many people, and we just didn't need that much anymore. The volume, it went back to normal levels. And when everybody assumed that, okay, everything's back open, we're going to enjoy steady growth, but for the foreseeable future. And the growth, it at some point, it didn't stagnate, but it was just not as much as everybody anticipated. And I think the entire industry has seen it, right? Many travel industries, or travel niches, travel niche markets, they got to enjoy the same rush of people and of bookings, and making money, making revenue. And then the growth went from 10%, maybe suddenly it's just 5%, and then suddenly you're down to 3% year over year. And then you have the next thing, you have Ukraine, the war in Ukraine happening, with the initial spike in energy costs. There was a huge factor that heavily impacted us, because Germany got so expensive. And the first thing that people tend to save is their holidays, right? Instead of flying to Greece for their holidays, they stay within Germany. And back then, Germany was our biggest market. Instead of, it's just everybody. So the booking behavior shifted. The corridors shifted. Our strongest corridors were Germany to Greece, Germany to Croatia, Austria to Croatia. And suddenly it was Germany to Germany. And we just didn't have strong inventory there. It doesn't have such a big industry, charter industry, as the Mediterranean countries. And this is when, we stopped growing, and we had to make decisions and face reality and turn the business towards what is actually realistic, right? How many people do you realistically need? And at that same time is when the AI boom started. And I guess this accelerated everything, where you just get more efficient. Fewer people can do more. No, it's the third time I said this now, but it's really true. All the labor-intensive positions, content writing, customer service, for many, of course, tech also. Although I think tech is still one of the, even with AI and even with tools like Windsurf, tech is still tech product that's combined. Still the more safer area, because you always need people to still understand the
Happening
code.
there.
You
I see.
cannot get rid of that completely, at least not now. And so, this allowed us just to no longer fill positions when people left, and people always leave. They always look for new experiences and go somewhere else. And at some point, we realized, okay, we can do the same thing with a few people we have. Do people now work a bit more? Yeah, obviously. Everybody probably has to do a few more minutes or hours a day. And it would be a nice to have more colleagues to reduce workload. But that's a whole different story, right?
That's a business side of the question.
Exactly. That's the business side. Yeah.
Okay, well, and with regards to you managed that you were fighting with Google's algorithms, but by introducing the content creation and adapting to this SEO changes. But what are other acquisition channels, or are you still like mostly reliant on Google?
Yeah, Google. So we have a fairly steady mix of paid. Paid is, as you just said, is Google and Meta lately. We have been building up Meta, and it seems to be working. It's a lot cheaper than Google, which is good. Doesn't have the same quality, undeniably. It is what it is. Will it ever be at the same quality? Probably not, because the intent is just lower. You're on Facebook, to waste time almost. or any social media, and Google, you have just higher intent because you're looking for something. We have CRM, we send the newsletters to our user base. We have CO is there, and then of course there's direct and a couple of other channels. Our sailing magazine as a traffic driver also creates a bit of a few requests here and there. Google is a big story because I just came out of a meeting in the morning, and I presented the February and March numbers so far, and I had a comparison to watch March and February last year. And last year we spent 4 times as much on Google.
Okay.
And the cost was just a lot higher. You could blame it on, not optimizing enough, obviously. But this year, partly we managed to spend less is because our other channels are performing a lot better, our non-paid channels. And this has been the biggest achievement, I think, over the last couple of months, is that we can rely less on paid marketing. I think you always need to spend on pay. You always need to be visible because it doesn't just drive paid clicks. It also drives organic traffic, and it just gets the brand recognition if you appear in the search results. And if you don't appear, right, your competitors will. So can we completely get rid of paid? Probably not, but we have managed to lower it a lot, and we are happy to try other channels like social, Meta. We have tried LinkedIn in the past. We have tried almost every channel there is in the past. And in the end, you always end up with, of course, unfortunately, the most expensive one being Google. We tried Bing a lot, but yeah, it's just Google is so powerful, has such good market position that you're almost forced to spend money there. And I don't see this changing anytime soon. Can we get more traffic from other sources? Absolutely.
Did you try to go to some social media channels with some influencers, or your scale is too big for that?
So one of our partner agencies is trying influencer management, and we are lucky. We have a few partner agencies that are in the same market that we are. Others are in different niche markets of the charter industry. We can have everybody can try their own little things, and we just share what works best. We have seen, for example, for us, running ads in Instagram and Facebook works well considering the low cost. And our partner, for example, they also do ads on Facebook. And for them, it doesn't work at all. So even within a channel, there's so many differences and there's so much optimization you need to do to cater to your specific funnel that offering the same product, basically the same product, right? If I offer both, my competitor or my partner offers the same boat, and they can be active on the same channel. But on our side, it could work. On theirs, maybe it doesn't, and the other way around. They have other channels like LinkedIn. For us, never really worked. Then there is TikTok. We haven't really done anything there. Our focus now is to focus a lot more on technical SEO, make sure our website is first in class when it comes to technical SEO, when it comes to core web vitals, speed, and so on, to really grow SEO as our primary channel. And of course, SEO is so reliant on high quality content, but also on the site itself. And we are
Do you also optimize for LLMs?
we started doing it, yeah, not with a clear focus where we would say, okay, now this month we do LLM optimization or geo optimization. But whatever we do, we take it into consideration, and at least we don't do anything that would hurt it. And we do optimize components here and there to make sure, and also content to make sure it supports SEO and geo, especially FAQ, for example, FAQ content, which is very important. Length of paragraphs, length of answers, all of these things.
And and what keeps breaking as you grow, and like what prevents you from growing further? Because like COVID times are over, spike is over, but right now it's steady growth. Should be as soon as
It
you
is
better than the market
competition.
competition.
There's so much competition in our industry, in the charter industry. There's so many agencies like ours, and these 21,000 boats, okay, a chunk of it is absolutely unique inventory that you might not see elsewhere. But in the end, our competitor, they work with the same partners, right? Exclusive partnerships are not really a thing because the boat owner, in the end, they want to fill the weeks. They don't care if the booking comes from Borrow Boat or from Boat Around or from any other of the hundreds of agencies that are on the market. And obviously there's competition in any market, but I would say on us, it's in our market, it's very dense. Everybody's driving up the costs on Google. We have very high cost per acquisition due to the high tickets, but also because there's just so much, everybody bids on the same keywords, yacht charter Croatia. yacht charter Greece, boat rental Athens, something like this. And it's driving up the cost. And then you have the price war because you already paid for the lead. You better make sure you close it, right? And even if it comes at a cost of your commission that you might drop in order to make the price to the client cheaper. Even if it's just 1% or 2%, a drop is a drop. If you have a client who's shopping around, they will go with whoever is cheaper. But they know it's the same boat. They know it's the same company behind it. Okay, they might have different quality of service or different speed of service. But even there, everybody is pretty much up there. They're pretty much optimized as much as it gets. And so, yeah, this is where growth is. Growth is spread among all the different agencies that are on the market, vying for the same customers, offering the same boats in the same locations through the same partners, almost at the same price.
If it's not a secret, like, what is the net margin like in percentages, and what eats the most out of the net margin? Is it like marketing?
Yeah, so we get, let's say in general, an agency gets up to 20% of the boat rental price.
And out of making this 20, 100, what is the cost of the 100?
It's the acquisition cost for sure.
Acquisition cost.
It's the labor for every company, every agency needs to have a sales team.
Yeah.
That is definitely. And then the second is
It's a lot of manual work that you mentioned, right?
Yeah. And the second is just running costs, infrastructure, all the different tools you pay, for a sales CRM, you then pay for a customer service tool, you pay for your email SMTP, you pay for, I'm just looking at my tabs. I have maybe 40 tabs open right now. Probably every second or third tab is from a tool that costs us money. It's a little here, it's a little there, and it just sums up. And then we managed to reduce office cost, for example. You also said this in the beginning, right? People are more and more working from home. I'm working from home as well. So we managed to close physical office locations because they were just no longer needed. But yeah, biggest challenge is it's not just growing, but it's growing profitably, right? You make only so much money on a booking. And if a third already is gone for the customer acquisition, and yeah, it's just then there's not much. There's a bit left, right? But you have so many other things to pay.
Yeah.
Nothing is cheap. I think, nothing is cheap. You know it best. If you run a website, you have obviously your hosting costs, but there's then all the itty bitty little costs, a little here, a little there. It all adds up.
The tools.
All the
So you
tools,
pay for the
exactly.
Google infrastructure, you pay for Amazon.
There's so much, and
as in your case, you pay for CRM, for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And we already reduced our nice to have tools, like just to make our lives easier. We reduced them to almost zero because we really tried to be, as efficient, cost efficient as possible. But some tools you just can't get around, right? You need to have them. You need to be able to send your email campaigns. You need to be able to make phone calls. You need to be able to send emails, transaction emails, all of these things, right? You need to be able to generate leads with lead forms. Every tiny little thing costs money.
Is there a loyalty? Is there customers' loyalty in this domain?
They are
Does
actually.
it tend to come back to Rantibo, or do they go to a competitor? Do they care?
That's it depends on the customer.
Yeah,
I would say the
in general.
majority does care. There are a few customers, or there's always customers, that just shop around. They take the best deal on the market and that's it. They have zero brand loyalty. They drink Coca-Cola today and tomorrow it's a Pepsi. Same with us. They book with us today and they might book even a second boat. Maybe they need two boats. They book the second boat elsewhere because they got a bet. They don't care about a different level of service. Zero brand loyalty, or at least we haven't convinced them to stay loyal to our brand. It could also be that it's just us not doing a good enough job to keep them. In general, I think in our industry, we enjoy fairly high repeat booking rates. Based on the months, we have between 40 and 60% repeat bookings. So it's very high. We have a good customer lifetime value due to the repeat rate. So in this case, it's working very well for us.
And you probably work with the clients on repetitive basis.
Exactly. And we also have, because almost every client goes to a sales agent or to a holiday planner, they come back to the same person the next year. We make sure that it's always the same person. So you build your relationships. And I actually, 10 years ago, I started as a sales agent as well. And even after having long moved on to different positions, I would still years later get WhatsApp messages from past clients. They would say, "Hey, Fred, I need another boat. Can you hook me up?" And they would come every year. And it's in many cases like this. It's a very loyal customer base, but of course, not everybody is like that. But the ones that are, they are super loyal. And unless you really, really, really mess up, they will stay with you. They will always come back to you every single year or multiple times a year because they know how it works. They know what to expect. And it starts just with one booking, right?
That's a great LTV value for your customers. Maybe the last one, because we're already
Sure.
like over an hour. I've had a couple of interviews in travel industry, and I'm hearing if fear of especially niche businesses of some big player coming and dominating the industry. And it's really hard. You got your recurrent customers, but it's really hard for the new customer to show your value before they work with you. And that's the fear on the market that like some bigger players will start dominating the market more and more. Is it the same in your niche? Because from what I hear from you, that's a lot of like players who are there, and I'm not hearing about some major one who could come and like dominate the market.
Absolutely. It's definitely happening. It's happening in two ways. First, there is consolidation happening.
Yeah.
Companies are merging with each other nonstop. And it's not just agencies that are merging. It's agencies with boat owners, with fleet operators. And then you might have another company that actually owns marinas. So they have the full vertical of customer acquisition through the agency. They have the ownership of the boats because they own it. And then they also own the marina that the boats are in. So this is definitely happening. There are now, I would say, 3 or 4 big players on the market already that kind of own an agency, fleet operator with their own boats and a marina or other similar industry services that are important. On the other hand, the second way this is happening is there are definitely major players that are standing out in our market, and they stand out for various reasons. It could be pure volume, they might have 2 times the volume, 2 times the bookings that they do each month. And they're just bigger. They have bigger budgets. If you type in yacht charter if you type in yacht charter Croatia in Google, you probably see them ranking first on almost every single page. They have huge budgets. They can spend a lot. They have huge reach. They have a good customer base. Now, does it come at the cost of service? Maybe at some point. Maybe it does. But you can do your own search and just see who that is. Does it mean that they are running a good business, a profitable business? I doubt it. Not many agencies like ours can run a profitable business in this industry right now due to the huge acquisition cost. It's very, very difficult. I mean, in the end, it comes down to the euro. Not many agencies, especially the newer ones, the so-called only online agencies that didn't start as a pen and paper agency or brick and mortar, that where just, because they saw a niche in the market, there is the supply of boats. Everybody has access to that supply, and everybody nowadays can build a website in a couple of days and probably offer these boats, right? The entry is very low. Now, getting customers is the tricky part, right? I've mentioned it a couple of times. A lot of it is done through paid ads, in marketing, driving up the cost. So this is probably the only entry hurdle is getting your customers. Other agencies or the agencies that have an advantage are the ones that started 20, 30 years ago as brick and mortar. They've been on the market forever. They have their customer base. They enjoy repeat booking rates of easily 60% and more. They have to spend very little on new customer acquisition. They can definitely run a profitable business. Every country has a couple of these agencies. They're doing a good job. They're absolute experts. They're professionals. They have very high satisfaction rate, customer satisfaction rate, very good reviews. They have been doing this for a while. They know it in and out. Yeah, they build up a business, and probably it also wasn't profitable in the beginning, and they developed it, and they are. New agencies coming into the market, they really have to fight. They really have to be like, way up there to run a profitable business.
What I hear is like it's all big agencies that are on the market. Then there is a approach like marketing acquisition.
Absolutely.
But it's not like a threat from whatever Google coming over dominating the industry, because like in cruise industry, it's actually the case. So Google is started looking into the industry, and they can like take a big piece of
disrupt
the
the
pie.
market. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were agencies that entered the market also approximately 10 years ago. Some are bigger, some are smaller today. But that was the goal back then, right? Enter the industry, enter the market, scale aggressively, get outside funding as much as you need, and build through scale, basically. Get your volume up. Try to become profitable by having huge volumes. And it might work for some, doesn't work for many in this industry.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for sharing all your thoughts, because we are far beyond 1 hour already.
Yeah, sorry, I'm really I can talk for hours and hours and hours.
That was really interesting conversation with a lot of details, and thanks for that. Before we wrap it up, is there anything you would like to add on top of that?
Well, maybe I didn't talk so much about the actual boat charters or the charter holiday, and I'm gonna keep it very short. But it really is. I'm sailing myself, and I'm not a sailor per se. I don't have parents that sail. You know, at some point I was on my first sailing holidays, and I absolutely fell in love, and I try to go every year. And it's at least to me, in my opinion, it's the most exciting way to do holidays is to spend them on a boat, go from place to place, wake up in a different spot every morning, prepare your food on board. Nobody tells you what you need to do or where you need to go. Only the weather is in charge, obviously. And so for everybody who hasn't tried this yet, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's cheap. It can be cheap compared to hotels because you always need to consider that you are dividing the cost by multiple people, and you will spend an awesome day or week with your friends, your family, on a boat with a skipper, or if you sail yourself, and just give it a try. If you do it once, and the repeat booking rates can confirm this, you will always want to do it again. And yeah, I'll never spend a full vacation just hanging out in a hotel again. It will always be a boat.
Yeah, my friend is a big fan of that, and so I'm hearing that like every season. So you should come over with us. So probably one day I will.
You absolutely should. You absolutely should. I can promise you, you will want to do it every year.
Awesome.
All right,
Thanks a lot,
Alexei.
Frederik, for this discussion, and good luck with what you're building. And
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure
and
talking to you and meeting you.
yeah, have a great day.
We'll be in touch. Cheers.